All right. What's up, you freaking geniuses? So in this video, I'm going to teach you how to find the values for which f of x is equal to g of x. All right, so as you can see, we have two functions, right? So here we have f of x is equal to x squared plus 1, and g of x is equal to 3x minus x squared, all right? So if you want to find values for where f of x is equal to g of x, all you have to do is set this equation or this function equal to this function, all right? So for f of x, we're going to say x squared plus 1 is equal to g of x, which is 3x minus x squared. Okay, so now we just want to solve for x. So here, let's get all the terms on the same side. Here, let's just move them all to the left, okay? So let's get rid of this negative x squared by adding x squared, right? Adding x squared to both sides. So over here, they cancel out. And let's move this 3x, same thing, minus 3x, minus 3x. So then on this side, they cancel out. All right, so then on this side, x squared plus x squared, that's equal to 2x squared. And then we have this negative 3x, right? So minus 3x, and then this plus 1, all right, plus 1. And that's all equal to a big old fat 0 on that side. Okay, great. So as you can see, we've set up a quadratic equation. So now we can solve this by factoring, right? So first of all, we can split this up into two sets of parentheses. 2x squared, we can split that up into 2x and x. And then you can use any method you want to find these other last two numbers. I'm just going to tell you right now, it's a minus 1 and a minus 1, okay? So now that we factored this little quadratic right here, again, this is all equal to 0, okay? So we've found our two factors. It's 2x minus 1 and x minus 1, all right? So let me scroll down a little bit. In order to solve for x, we just have to set each of our factors equal to 0. So this first factor is 2x minus 1, so we'll set that equal to 0. And our other one, x minus 1, is also equal to 0, okay? So solving for x on this side, we can add 1 to both sides. So here we get 2x is equal to positive 1. Solving for x, we can get rid of this 2 by dividing both sides by 2, right? So those die, and we get that x is equal to 1/2, all right? Now on this side, we can see pretty easily that x must be equal to positive 1, all right? So those are our two solutions for x. All right, let's just try a couple more here. So again, we just want to figure out which values of x make f of x is equal to g of x, all right? So again, to do that, we just need to set these two equations equal to each other. So we're gonna say here that x to the 4th minus 2x squared is equal to 2x squared, all right? So as you can see, we again have a bunch of x terms, so that probably means we're going to have to factor this to solve for x again. So let's group all the terms on one side. So here, let's move just everything to the left. So here we can subtract 2x squared, and we can subtract 2x squared. So on this side, they die, and all we're left with here is x to the 4th, and then negative 2 minus 2 is equal to negative 4, right? So here we get minus 4. X squared is equal to 0. The next thing we can do, as you can see, is factor out an x squared term from this, the first term and the second term, right? So we can factor out an x squared from both of these terms. So what are we going to be left with? Well, for this one, we're going to be left with x squared, and for this one, we're going to be left with just this minus 4. And again, this is all equal to 0. Okay, nice. So now that we factored it, now we can solve for each factor, right? So we have two factors. We have x squared and we have x squared minus 4. So again, to solve for these, we just need to set them equal to 0. So this first one, we're going to say x squared is equal to 0. And then for this other one, we're going to say x squared minus 4 is equal to 0. Okay, so for this first one, we can see x must be equal to simply 0. Okay, and for this one, x squared minus 4 is equal to 0. We're trying to solve for x squared, right? So we can get rid of this 4 by adding 4 to both sides. So we get x squared is equal to positive 4. Now to solve for x, we need to get rid of this exponent, the 2, and we can do that by simply taking the square root of both sides right here. So then those cancel out, and we're left with simply x is equal to plus or minus the square root of 4, which is equal to 2, all right? So we get 3 total solutions here, right? We get x is equal to 0, x is equal to positive 2, and x is equal to negative 2. All right, here's the last one we're gonna do, and it's a little tricky, so I wanted to walk through this one for you. So the 2 functions we have here are f of x is equal to the square root of x minus 4, and g of x is equal to 2 minus x. Okay, so again, we just want to set these equal to each other, right? So here, we're going to say that the square root of x minus 4 is equal to 2 minus x, okay? Now, here we don't quite want to group our terms all together yet, and that's specifically because we have this radical, right? The square root of x. So maybe there's a way we can get rid of this square root of x first, all right? So let's try and do that. So the first thing here, let's get rid of this minus 4. Let's move it to the other side so we can isolate this square root of x, right? So let's add 4 to both sides. So here these cancel out, and we're left with the square root of x is equal to, looks like 6 minus x, all right? Now, in order to get rid of this square root, again, we can just square it, right? So we need to square this whole thing right here, and what we do to one side of the equation, we do to the other, right? So we have to square this whole side also. Okay, so again, on this side, the square root and the squared exponent cancel out. So then here we're left with just x, and that's equal to 6 minus x squared. So that's the same thing as 6 minus x times 6 minus x. Okay, so let's multiply this out so we can simplify it. So here we're going to get that x is equal to, and we can just FOIL, right? So first we're going to get 6 times 6, which is equal to 36. 6 times negative x is negative 6x. And then here we get negative x times 6, which is also negative 6x. And then negative x times negative x is positive x squared, okay? So then here we get that x is equal to, and then I'm going to flip the terms, right? Because as you can see, we basically have a quadratic over here. But let's write the biggest exponents first. So first we have this positive x squared, right? So positive x squared. And then we have these x terms, right? Negative 6x minus 6x, that's equal to negative 12x. And then we have this positive 36, right? So plus 36, all right? So let's scroll down here. And now that we simplified it, now let's bring everything over on the same side. So this single x term, we're going to move to the right side by subtracting x, right? Subtracting x. So then on this side, those cancel out. So we get 0 is equal to x squared. And then negative 12 minus 1 is equal to negative 13, right? So here we get negative 13x plus 36. All right, great. So everything's combined together. It's equal to 0. So we can finally solve this by factoring, all right? So we're going to get that 0 is equal to, and then we're going to split this up into 2 sets of parentheses. So x squared, we can split that up into x times x. And then here we need 2 numbers that multiply together to positive 36, but they have to add up to negative 13. So in this case, that would be a minus 4 and a minus 9, right? So as you can see, we have our 2 factors now, right? So we just need to set each one equal to 0. So we're going to get x minus 4 is equal to 0, and x minus 9 is equal to 0. So then on this side, you can see that x must be equal to positive 4, and on this side, x must be equal to positive 9. All right, so we get 2 solutions. Now, one thing I should have mentioned in the last problem is when you get multiple solutions, it's normally good to check if either one of these are extraneous. All right, and all that means is we can plug these solutions back into the original equation and they should work. But if they don't, that just means it's an extraneous solution, that it's not an actual solution. Okay, so let's just do that really quick. So let me rewrite the original problem. So it was the square root of x minus 4 is equal to 2 minus x. All right, so let's check 4, positive 4 first. So here we would get the square root of 4 minus 4 is equal to 2 minus 4. So then here we get 2 minus 4, is equal to, well, 2 minus 4. So basically, negative 2 is equal to negative 2. All right, so we got a balanced equation here. So this positive 4 is definitely a solution. All right, so now let's plug in this positive 9 and see if it also works. We're going to get the square root of positive 9 minus 4 is equal to 2 minus 9. So here we get the square root of 9 is equal to 3, right? So 3 minus 4 is equal to 2 minus 9, right? 2 minus 9. So here we get that negative 1 is equal to negative 7, all right? That definitely does not make sense. So that means this solution, x is equal to 9, is an extraneous solution. So if you found the video helpful, make sure to leave a thumbs up down below. And if you have any questions, let me know in the comments section below.